Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, name is Rob. Let me tell you something most people learn too late in their career. Your biggest mistakes at work won't come from your performance. They'll come from trusting the wrong people. Not enemies, not rivals, not the boss. Your coworkers. The people who smile at you in the hallway. The people who say, "We're all in this together." The people who swear something is just between us. But here's the truth no one warns you about. Corporate life is a game. And the moment you forget that, you lose. Today I'm going to share some real stories. Things I've lived and experienced. Things I've seen that will change the way you move at work forever. If you've ever been burned, blindsided, or betrayed by someone you thought you could trust, you're going to feel this one. Let's get into it. Years ago, I worked with a guy. Let's call him Mike. Friendly, funny, the kind of guy who always had a joke ready to deliver. One day, we're standing there, and he casually asks, "Hey, what do you think about the new project direction?" I gave a neutral answer, of course. Something harmless like, "Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out." Several days later, my manager pulls me into a meeting and he says, "So I heard you're not confident in the new direction." That's when I learned nothing said is casual. People listen, people repeat, and sometimes people weaponize your words without even realizing it. Coworkers aren't your friends. They're friendly, but they're not your inner circle. And in corporate life, your words travel faster than you do. If you ever had a friendly coworker twist your words or repeat something you said casually, drop a comment. I want to know if this has happened to you as well. Another time, a colleague, let's call her Sarah, was having a rough stretch. Personal stuff, family issues. She trusted HR, one of her biggest mistakes. She thought they'd help her navigate it. She walked in looking for support and walked out with a performance improvement. The plan. There you go. Not because she was bad at her job, but because she revealed too much. HR's job is to protect the company, not your emotions, not your secrets, not your personal life. If it's business related, by all means, absolutely. Sure, go to HR. If it's personal, keep it out of the corporate system. Call your spouse, call your sibling, your relative, your friend. Once it's documented, it's no longer yours. I love this one. Then there was, let's call this guy Tom. Every company has a Tom. Come on. In meetings, he was loud, bold, always speaking truth to the power, calling out leadership, acting like the corporate rebel. But behind closed doors, he'd pull you aside and say, "Hey, between you and me, I think the VP is clueless." Or, "Don't worry, this stays between us." Let me tell you something. If someone says between you and me too often, it's never between you and them. One day, Tom called into a leadership meeting. And yes, guess whose name he dropped to save himself? Mine. He said, "Well, Rob, he agreed with me. He said the same thing." I didn't say a word, but that didn't matter. That's when I learned. Never let someone pull you into their drama. If they talk recklessly in meetings, they'll talk recklessly about you. Have you ever had a coworker that said between you and me way too often? Tell me your version of this Tom in the comments. And then there was the manager. We'll call him Dan. On paper, he was a leader. In reality, he was a title. He'd schedule weekly one-on-ones and cancel them every single week. He assigned big projects with no direction, no context, no support. And when things went sideways, he'd say, well, Rob was leading that. I trusted him to figure it out. That's not leadership. That's a setup. A real leader shows up. A real leader guides. A real leader doesn't disappear until it's time to point fingers. If your manager constantly cancels your one-on-ones, they're telling you, without saying it, your development is not a priority. Now, let me tell you one of the biggest eye-openers of my career. This one's a doozy. I was in a leadership meeting where an executive literally said, feed one of my direct reports some disloyalty comments about me. I want to see how he reacts. Let that sink in. They wanted to test him, to bait him, to entrap him, just to see if he was on the bus. And the other direct reports, they didn't hesitate. They played along. They fed him lines. They watched his reactions. They reported back like it was normal. That's when you realize your coworkers are not your friends. They're protecting themselves. They're protecting their careers. And you're just part of the experiment. Have you ever seen leadership test loyalty like this? Or seen coworkers get baited? Share your story. No names needed. Here's another one. It's common, and it's disappointing. You build trust with a direct report. He vents to you about a coworker, says all kinds of negative things. You think he's being honest. He's venting, fed up with it. You think you have a real connection. Then that coworker gets promoted. Suddenly, he stops talking. Now he's leaning on that same person to get ahead. He doesn't say a word anymore, except when he asks, hey, did you hear anything about him? What did you think about the promotion? He's not asking because he cares. He's asking because he wants information. He wants leverage. He wants positioning. People don't change. Their incentives do. And here's the dangerous part. You say something innocent to your direct report coworker. Now he's close with someone in HR. He mentions it casually. That HR rep shares it with another HR rep. Suddenly, your comment becomes a concern. It becomes a pattern, something we should monitor. You said one thing. They built a narrative. This is why you never share personal issues or unrelated business talk with your manager or your direct reports. And here's another reason why you should never trust your coworkers. When people never talk about Leadership changes. Executives rotate. New management comes in. And when that happens, everything you said to your trusted coworkers can come back to bite you. I've seen it happen plenty of times. I'm sure we all have. You make a harmless comment about a project. You vent about a process. You share a frustration with someone you think is safe. Then 6 months later, a reorg happens. A new VP arrives. Half the leadership team gets replaced. And suddenly, those same coworkers, the ones you laughed with, vented with you, nodded along with you, start rewriting history. They say things like, well, Rob wasn't fully aligned with the old direction, or he had concerns about the strategy, or even he mentioned a few issues we should keep an eye on. And now you're on the radar of people you never even met. Not because you did anything wrong, but because someone else wanted to look loyal and aligned, or politically clean. When leadership changes, people reinvent themselves. They rewrite their stories, and sometimes they rewrite yours too. This is why you stay neutral, you stay professional, you keep your opinions tight, because you never know who's going to be in charge the next quarter. Have you ever had a coworker rewrite history when new leadership came in? I know I'm not the only one. Share your experience. Drop a comment. And here's the final truth. When you leave the company, ask yourself, how many coworkers actually keep in touch? How many check in? How many support you? How many stay connected once you're no longer useful to them? Most disappear because most relationships at work are situational. They're not genuine. When you left a job, how many coworkers actually stayed in touch? Be honest. Drop a comment. So what do you do with all this? Well, you stay professional. You stay aware. You protect your reputation. You don't overshare. You don't gossip. You don't get pulled into someone else's drama, their organized chaos. And you build your real relationships outside the company. Corporate life can be extremely rewarding, but only if you understand the game you're playing. Until next time, be safe, be healthy, be happy, live in the moment. Cent'anni to 100 years. God bless.